Something serious is happening in Nigeria's political space right now, and it raises one big question. Can INEC simply decide who leads a political party? Here is the situation. A former director of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Okechukwu Ibiano, has come out strongly to say that INEC was wrong to de-recognize the leadership of the African Democratic Congress, led by David Mark.
Now, pause for a second and think about that. This is not just a random opinion. This is coming from someone who has actually worked inside INEC at a high level. So when he says something like this, it carries weight. What exactly happened? INEC reportedly took a step that suggests it no longer recognizes the leadership structure of the ADC under David Mark. That alone has already created tension because political parties are supposed to manage their own internal leadership issues. INEC's role is mainly to regulate elections, not to decide internal party disputes. So when INEC moves in a way that looks like it is picking a side, people start asking questions. And that is exactly what Okechukwu Ibiano is pointing out. He believes INEC may have overstepped its boundaries. According to him, the commission does not have the power to de-recognize a party leadership just like that, especially when the matter is still an internal issue or possibly even in court. Now, let's break this down in a simple way. Political parties in Nigeria are like independent organizations. Yes, they are regulated by INEC, but they have their own constitutions, their own processes, and their own leadership structures. If there's a disagreement inside the party, the usual path is either internal resolution or the courts. INEC stepping in too early can create confusion, and this is where the bigger concern comes in. If INEC can de-recognize one leadership today, what stops it from doing the same to another party tomorrow? That is the kind of question that makes people uneasy. This is not the first time Nigeria has seen leadership disputes inside political parties. Think back to the crisis in the People's Democratic Party some years ago, or even the internal struggles within the All Progressive Congress. In those cases, courts played a major role in deciding who the legitimate leaders were. INEC usually waits for clear legal direction before taking a firm position. So why does this ADC situation feel different? One key factor is the name involved. David Mark is not just any politician. He's a former Senate president, someone who has been in Nigeria's political system for decades. Seeing a figure like that at the center of this kind of controversy naturally draws more attention. Another thing is timing. Nigeria is always preparing for one election or another. Any issue involving party leadership can affect candidate selection, alliances, and even voter confidence. And that is why this story matters more than it might look at first glance. Because if party leadership is not clearly recognized, it creates confusion about who can represent the party, who can sign documents, and who can even present candidates for elections. Imagine a scenario where two different factions claim to be the real leadership. Who does INEC listen to? Who gets on the ballot? These are real problems that can affect the outcome of elections. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Ibiano's statement is not just criticism, it is also a warning. A warning that institutions need to stay within their limits, because once a line is crossed, it can set a precedent that is difficult to reverse. And in a country like Nigeria, where trust in institutions is already a sensitive issue, actions like this can either build confidence or damage it further. At the same time, there are people who may argue that INEC is simply trying to maintain order. Maybe from their perspective, they needed to take a position to avoid confusion. But the question remains, was that the right move? Or was it too much, too soon? This is exactly the kind of situation that usually ends up in courts. And if that happens, the final decision may not come from INEC at all, but from the judiciary. So now, all eyes are on what happens next. Will the ADC challenge this decision legally? Will INEC reverse or clarify its position? Or will this situation grow into a bigger political battle? These are the things to watch. And if you think about it, This is not just about one party. It's about how democracy is managed. It's about who holds power and how that power is used. Because at the end of the day, strong institutions are what keep the system stable. If you are following Nigerian politics closely, this is one story you don't want to ignore. If you are enjoying this breakdown, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and keeps you updated with important stories like this. There is still more to unpack about how this could affect future elections and other political parties.